So now we're going to look at brand voice and your messaging. And this is where we talk about the 4 different content styles that you can put out. And when you do this, you have the flexibility to go through all of the different brand voices, but it's really important to kind of pick the ones that you are best at and that your niche and your audience resonates with the most. Okay, so for myself, just to use that as an example, I'm going to do a lot more educational posts as a business slash personal training mentor because entertaining content isn't necessarily going to convert clients, for example. So I'm going to go through and use multiple examples for multiple niches as we do this. So with having a distinct brand voice, it's really important creating a strong and memorable personal training brand. Okay, it reflects your personality, your values, and the way you communicate with your audience. And it's really important to be consistent to that. If you study people who have had really big social media success, like Alex Hormozi, for example, he has a very particular way of speaking. He doesn't do too many funny videos. He does it in some of his paid marketing, but all his brand voice is very, very similar across all his messaging. Okay, and he's a really good example to follow. Same with his wife, Layla. Now, with leveraging different content styles, you can engage your audience in various ways, build strong connections, and convey your brand message. So by using a combination of these styles rather than one style, you're able to get more attention every now and then bring people in to understand your deeper message that is really reflecting your brand voice. So we have 4 different types that we're going to be looking at there. Inspirational and aspirational content is the first one. It basically motivates and encourages your audience, personal growth, achieving goals, overcoming challenges. So you really want to, this is where you see a lot of people like putting up selfies or client transformations, etc., quotes, highlighting the benefits of a healthy lifestyle. If it's business, you see people driving fancy cars and going in private jets and stuff like that. They're trying to sell something to aspire to or something to be inspired by. Okay, so depending on your niche, you may have aspirational stuff, which a lot of that is your testimonials. Now, as online fitness coaches, testimonials and social proof are our biggest assets for getting more clients in. Social proof is undeniable. So the more social proof we have that's aspirational, the better it is. And by telling the story of the person, it allows people in that same niche and avatar to aspire towards that. So, for example, if you're working with PCOS, if you have a story about how X lost X amount of weight by working with you, and these are the struggles that they overcame, that's going to be really aspirational for your audience. If you've got a diabetic client whose blood sugar has gone from 19 down to 10 in a period of 4 weeks, that's a aspirational thing to do. Inspirational will be like a photo shoot or something like that, where someone's gone to all this effort, they've dolled up, they look great, and they're documenting that. So it can be really, really useful content to do, and powerful personal language that's positive is really going to help. Okay, so inspirational content, aspirational content should be part of all our content because we want to show our success stories. Okay. Now, thought-provoking content, this again depends on your niche and the avatar. It basically challenges your audience to believe, stimulates critical thinking, encourages reflection on various topics. So this is something that I use a lot of in my space. So if you're in the hypertrophy space, for example, you may use this looking at new ways of achieving hypertrophy that may be different. And we saw a really big example of this with lengthened partials in the fitness industry. So a lot of people were using lengthened partials as a way to have more hypertrophy versus full range of motion, and we have that whole debate over volume happening here. That's all thought-provoking content to get people to go over that. So it's to provoke discussion, raise awareness, and establish your brand as a thought leader. Okay, so if you want to be a thought leader in your industry, this is very, very important to do. So you can talk about articles or posts discussing the latest trends, questions or polls that encourage your audience to think deeply, and opinion pieces are the main one. This is my primary form of content on Facebook for getting clients, opinion pieces, and to get people to think about the way they've already done things. Now, this one positions your brand as an expert and thought leader faster than any other because you're making people think. I know that sounds really simple, but if you make people think and you ask really good questions, it positions you as a thought leader in that particular field. And it can really get a lot of engagement out of these. So if one of these posts goes viral, even though I don't really like the idea of things going viral, it basically allows you all your other posts to really go from there and then start a whole bunch of conversations. So well-researched information provides balanced perspectives and encourage open dialogue and be prepared to engage. So if you post thought-provoking content, prepare to argue with people. Okay. and it's okay. Now, entertaining or funny content that engages your humor for being funny, basically, and enjoyable, makes your brand relatable and memorable. Evidence-based training, or EBT, uses this all the time with these roundhouse kicks and stuff like that. A lot of people use entertaining and funny content to build a brand, and it can be really, really useful. So humorous memes can be good, lighthearted videos, good social media posts being funny. It gets your audience attention and makes you very likable. You do need to have other content like the aspirational content to get people on board. And with the entertaining, funny content, you need to make sure it aligns with your brand value, but don't do it all the time unless you're really good at it. Okay. The downside to entertaining, funny content is it takes the most amount of time to develop. Okay. Now, if you're funny and you can do it, it's unreal. It can really, really boost your brand. But for most people, it's something that we may not do all the time because it can require big investment. And the last one's informative or educational content. Basically, info, tips, insights. You want to educate your audience. How-to guides, infographics, blog posts, long reels, etc., whatever it is. What you want to do, your informative / educational content, is give your client or your audience, something actionable that they can do today. Ideally, if you do informative and educational content, your audience should be able to achieve their desired result from your social media content. Okay. Now, that being said, they're not going to do that because they don't have the coaching, the guidance, and the accountability. But you want to give them so much value that they will go to you as the expert after that to do this. So this helps you build trust and credibility, and then people will reach out to you for help. But again, if it's educational, informative, up to date, credible, clear and concise language, and make it easy to understand. So what you want to do with this information team is you want to look at your brand, your niche, your avatar, and we'll talk about this on one of our one-on-one coaching calls and work out exactly what forms of content that you're going to be best suited for. Now, your personality matters, your brand values matter, and then also your niche matters in determining what brand voice you're going to have.